Chad and Ryan from Nickelback joined. Guys, I'm absolutely honored and thrilled. I believe this is your first ever interview with an Indian radio station, and I'm
Buddy,
very proud.
we're so
We've
excited.
we've saved it for this moment, Hrishi. We've saved it all up for this, so I'm very happy to be here too.
You're very kind. All of you who are living under a rock. I mean, 2017 is when they last put out an album, Nickelback, and this is really, really big. On the 18th of November, it's the band's 10th studio album. It's called Get Rollin. And I'm going to start with actually San Quentin. I know the prison is a big deal in America. And if I'm not mistaken, even Metallica performed at the prison once, and a whole bunch of documentaries and things have happened around the prison. But Chad, what is your particular experience that led to the writing of the song?
Well, thankfully, I've never been incarcerated into San Quentin, but I met the warden. I met the warden at a party,
Wow.
and from this, as soon as I met him and he introduced himself and told me what he did for a living, right away I went into songwriter mode in my head, and I wrote it down in my phone right away. I was just like, San Quentin, great song title. Let's do something with that. And it was really just not much more than that. But you're right. It's a legendary prison. It's had some very dark tales to it, but there's also been a lot of celebrity attachment to it. Johnny Cash even played there, and you're right, Metallica. I think they filmed a video for Saint Anger there. So it is widely known.
That's wonderful. And it's only appropriate that you would put out a track which is really nostalgic, because you guys have been around for a while and there's so much nostalgia around Nickelback. I mean, everybody in India has their romantic moment with a Nickelback song, or their moments with How You Remind Me, or Photograph, or Far Away, and Rockstar, and all those anthemic songs. And I love that you would actually go back and in those days talk about all those wonderful things in high school that set us all going. Ryan, you want to talk about that? I mean, I remember Michael J. Fox and Back to the Future, and going to the movies here and going, wow.
Exactly. I mean, we were hitting on the touchstones from that we had growing up in the 80s, obviously. It was nice to kind of keep the chorus very, we're talking about us, but it is about nostalgia. It's like, what were those days like for you? And the movies made for you. Like, that was the culture of how we grew up. Was we would sit around and we would go, let's go get a movie. And you go, the days you can go to the VHS store, we had a movie, we would all take time, pick it, come home, we'd all sit around. You couldn't just get it on Netflix. Like, it was a ritual almost.
Yep.
And it was a blast. And I remember, like all the things we were talking about as well, with the old bands you like, the old t-shirts you had and the posters you'd have on the wall, because if we wanted to learn about bands, we'd have to read them in magazines. You didn't have the internet at your fingertips to know everything about everybody. So there was always this mystique about bands, which was also like just an amazing way for us to kind of formative years to grow up. And I love the fact that we touch on that. We've done that before, in a sense, with Photograph about our hometown, but this is kind of like how the time frame of the 80s and stuff meant to us. And actually, and specifically, I've mentioned this before because I don't know if anybody picked it out, but we put little tidbits, little Easter eggs in our video for those days about, we've got some posters. We've got like a shark jaw up on the wall for Jaws. Back then when that came out, that was a huge deal. I remember that coming out. And then I play a replica of the red ES-345 Gibson that Michael J. Fox, you were talking about, played in the Under the Sea dance in Back to the Future. I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to add that to it, because we've got the line about hitting 88, trying to go back in time, and like, it was just fun. And also shooting it in a garage, very much like the style that we used to practice in. And it kind of feels like, we're kind of like coming around full circle and kind of looking back exactly in the inception of our band and how far we've come. So it was fun to take a little trip for sure.
Yeah, that's lovely. And I remember watching Jaws and then going to the aquarium and having a freaky moment, thinking that the whale that was in the aquarium would just come out and swallow me up or something.
Steven Spielberg ruined it for everybody.
Yeah,
swimming pools.
Damn
The
you,
deep ends of
Spielberg.
the swimming pools are dangerous.
Yeah. That's amazing. Speaking of which, since you mentioned the video, San Quentin, did you film in a school or a college or a campus? Because I see
Yeah.
all these young people, makes us feel old because I'm also 80s, 90s generation. You know, or running towards the band, and you're doing this public performance. Where was that filmed at?
That was at UBC. Or sorry,
No, SFU.
SFU. Sorry, wrong one.
They,
Yeah,
they,
so it
they
was
call
at
it
a
Simon Fraser University is what it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
We just thought we wanted to do something. We weren't sure if we were going to play on top of a building or if we were going to just get on the back of a. Remember, there was that idea about going on a truck or something, just setting up on the back of a flatbed truck and then just going right downtown. But we wanted to do something that was public, and we told everybody on the radio that we were going to go out and do this, and so it was really cool that we had a whole bunch of very young people. You're right, because even we were shocked. It's crazy because the last 2 times that we've been through Europe, we say the same thing every time we get off stage. I'm like, how old are these kids in the front 4 rows? They're all like 15 years old. Like, how do these guys know our music? But it's great. It's the power of being around, being multi-generational, I guess. It is an absolute blessing for sure.
Chad, who's your co-producer on this particular album? Have you guys worked before, done some albums before for Nickelback?
Yeah, Chris Baseford. He's a ninja. It's great to be in a room with someone who can move that fast. Because when you're coming up with ideas, the last thing you want is technical difficulties. you want to be flowing, and just as fast as we're spitting out ideas, he's able to lay them down for us and contribute a lot. Actually, speak of a blessing. Just to be able to sit in the room with him. I'm terrified to see his actual IQ because I'm pretty sure it's
right.
It's got to be pretty high.
His songwriting instincts and arranging and production, and like he comes up with ideas as well. Like he's a multi-tool in the studio because
he's truly a multi-tool.
Wow.
He's amazing to work with. Yeah.
Ryan, just curious to know, I mean, did you meet the Kroeger brothers in high school, sometime in the 90s? How did the formation of the band actually happen, and why Nickelback?
That is interesting.
Tell them the story. Tell them the story.
The joke. Which one?
The joke is because there was
the band name.
Yeah, there was 3 Kroegers in the band.
I know.
Your cousin too, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's right.
That's right.
So your brothers and
yeah.
So we got 3 Kroegers in the band, and Ryan says we should call the band Peake. Like, no, Ryan Peake. I think we should call the band
Peake
Kroeger.
And 3 Kroegers.
I'm like,
exactly.
I'm like, yeah, let's find something else. Let's find something else. It's funny how this kind of dovetails in because in reference to back to those days, the song, I was pulling a lot of memories from when I grew up in another town until I was about 13. And those were really formative 80s years for me as well. But when I moved, when I was 13, I moved to the same town as the Kroegers, as Mike and Chad. And we didn't really we kind of got together a little later on because it took a few years to kind of get into the music scene in the tiniest small town. Is about 2,900 people in Hannah where we lived. But you would end up just finding some people to play with, and we ended up just kind of gravitating to each other. Mike was the first one. Yeah, we needed a bass player in our guitar and drums group we had, which was
everybody
nothing.
always needs a bass player,
right? Everybody
bass player.
So
you got a gig no matter what.
Mike was a very popular guy in town in that sense. So we got Mike, and then we did a little iteration of that group, and then we just kind of shut it down for a bit. And then we decided to get back together. Chad had been playing guitar for a while and became a really, really proficient guitar player, and he wanted to play leads. And we're like, this is great. We added another singer, and then that was kind of our cover song band for about 9 months, and that fizzled out. And then it wasn't until about the summer of 1995 when we were all kind of like, well, what else are we gonna do with our lives? And
now what?
Chad was like, yeah, now what? And
now what do we do?
That's when Chad said he had a few songs that we could record if we want to just see what it's like to be in a studio. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. So we drove to Vancouver, recorded this demo, and then someone said they could get a song on the radio a couple months after we had finished this recording of, like, I think we recorded it in a day and a half. Like, it was really quick. And they said, I can get this on the radio. And we're like, really? So they got it on the radio over Christmas, and they said, I got you a gig in January of 1996. Do you guys want to come out? We're like, sure. What's the band name? No idea.
Not a clue.
No band name, not a clue. We didn't even know we were a band at that point. So Mike came up with the name.
That's not a bad band name. We should have gone with Not a Clue.
Not a clue. That could
not a clue.
Well. And up next, Not a Clue, or Free Beer. Free Beer is a good idea as well. But that was the inception of the band, basically, and yeah, we took off from there.
Yeah, but who gave a Nickelback? I don't know.
Yeah,
where did that one come from? Chad?
That was Mike.
Yeah, that's Mike. Mike was working at a Starbucks in Vancouver, and everything at the time was $2.95, $3.95, $4.95, whatever it was. So all day long, he was just simply I mean, the stories. I wish the story was cooler, but it's just like constantly saying, "Here's your Nickelback. Here's your Nickelback." And then he called me, and he's like, "Hey, I got a band name. I got an idea." I said, "Okay, what do you got?" He goes, "Nickelback." And I just said, "Well, what is it? What does that mean?" He goes, "Well, it doesn't mean anything." And then I kind of went, "That's perfect. That's perfect. It doesn't mean anything."
And nickel, I don't know what they call 5 or the denominations of change over there, but ours is 5 cents as a nickname is a nickel. So that's where it came from.
Nice. To me, one of the beautiful things about your band is, you're capable of just sitting there and laughing at yourself. And Rockstar really is about that, isn't it? I mean, it's about the decadent rock life. And in a way, you're really mocking what you guys were already, a part of at one point in time. I wonder if there's a kind of flavor of that in the new album. Are we going to hear some bits of good old Nickelback? The stuff that fans are clamoring for.
Always. Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like a song like that, I think I was writing, lyrically. My idea was, because I brought the chorus into the guys, and I thought, if we could just start naming all these things that we think a rock star lives like, but from like the eyes of like a 13 or 14-year-old kid, like just an absolute fan. And if you just go into that mode, and then you start naming all these ridiculous things, and it's obviously, well, if you're a rock star, obviously you hang out at the Playboy Mansion, and if you're a rock star, obviously you've got your own jet, and if you're a rock star, you do all of these things. And so it really was supposed to come from this silly place, right up until the point of probably get washed up singers writing all my songs and lip sync them every night so I don't get them wrong. So that's funny. We think that's hilarious. And we've said some silly things in our songs over the years. So you're right. We definitely don't take ourselves seriously, and we are absolutely able to laugh at ourselves. So as long as you know that, then there's definitely a thread of that goes through every single song that we do.
I was reading somewhere that one of your favorite bands is Led Zeppelin. So
Absolutely.
I said it'd be a little cheesy to wear a Nickelback t-shirt to a Nickelback interview. So
did I. I thought that would be bad for me as well.
Yeah.
We were also going to wear them. Yeah.
But I see that Ryan has Tom Petty right behind him. I mean, was that another big influence, Ryan? Yeah. Tom Petty, the Heartbreakers?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's funny because there's when I talk about influences, we've each got our own to a degree, and we talk about the standouts, but there's all these tertiary kind of on the fringe people you grew up with, like the Cult. The Cult was an amazing band that I sometimes forget to mention, that we used to play the whole album electric. It was like, that was just meat and potatoes rock music. This guy, Tom Petty, as well, just getting up there with good songs and just captivating the crowd. I mean, yep. I saw him the last 2 times he came to town before he passed away, and I am not a religious person, but it's almost like a congregation when you come in to see Tom Petty, in the sense of just like, it's not about anything else other than the music and everybody getting together to sing it. And that, for me, is like, I like to keep that in mind, because that's what we like when we come to our shows. There's obviously a separation of the the crowd and the band from the stage, but we like to bridge that as much as we can and say, we're all here for a good time. Let's sing these songs. And even as well as songwriting, Tom was great at just taking a real simple idea and putting it plainly, and succinctly in a lot of times, but very, very poignant. Like if you listen to some of his lyrics, it's just like they say so much in such little space. So that's inspiring. That's always hard to catch every time you're writing something, but man, it's something to aspire for. So yeah, I like keeping the reminder here.
That's a beautiful answer. My last question has actually got to be about the pandemic. All of us learn new ways to adapt, Chad. I mean, for example, I'm sitting at midnight India time talking to you guys, and one of the reasons is the pandemic, because when the pandemic broke, we had to shift the radio studio to the house. I was doing my gig out of home, connecting with people like you on video software. So I think a few of us were lucky to be able to continue working during the pandemic. I mean, there were people that are accountants who were losing jobs and not being able to go to work and things like that. I understand that large parts of this album were recorded during that turbulent time. Would you like to fill us in on that, Chad?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and we definitely knew what was going on in India because you guys were having a particularly horrible outbreak. It was, I mean, this is something the entire world knows. It was bad. For us, we just had to shut it down. All we had to do was just stay home, trying to go out, don't congregate. You weren't supposed to have more than 6 people at the house at any time. That's something that they instituted here in Canada. So for us, it afforded us the time to get into the room and just start fleshing out some ideas. Hey, if we can't go anywhere, we might as well start, grab a guitar and let's start singing and let's find something here. And for us, because most of our records, there's a deadline, if we don't get the record out by a certain time, then we can't tour at a certain time. And there's all the things get pushed back. And so we've got, managers and booking agents and everything that are constantly telling us like, hey, you got to kind of try to make it. You want to try and get like this deadline. But for this one, it really wasn't like that. And we didn't have to do that. So that was a luxury that was afforded to us, just to be able to take as much time as we wanted and really flush out all the ideas. That was lovely and something new for us. And then at one point in time, when things did start to relax with the pandemic, we just went and rented a house for just a different vibe. And we went up to Whistler and we came up with Those Days. So that also, like the ability to just say, hey, let's get away from all the distractions. Let's get away from the family and, friends calling you up like, hey, let's go for a beer, whatever it is. Like all that just gets put on the back burner and we get into a room for 10 days and we just focus on what we're supposed to be doing here. That's always nice too. And it's just the boys and we're all, we have what I like to say is keep your eyes on the prize. So we just stay focused and that was great too.
Ryan, have you ever been to India? I hope to see you guys in India soon. Ever been here for a holiday or anything? Wow.
I've never been. No, I'd love to go.
Chad,
I've never been. But when you're sitting there listing all of the songs and you're, and saying that you're aware of all of them and that people in India, know who we are, it makes me want to go to India so bad because we've never been. We had no idea that we had a fan presence there. This is like Ryan and I were both really excited before this interview because we've never spoken to a radio station from India before. This is all brand new turf for us. This is brand new territory. So it just fills me with excitement, and then you're talking about all these other artists that are coming there and playing. And it's like, now I want to go so bad.
Yeah. Rishi, tell people about us. Promise to tell people about us. All right.
We'll play your music all the time. We're banging the new singles and can't wait to be in the front row screaming out when Nickelback plays a gig here. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you, Chad.
94.3 One World, your station. RadioOne.